In the name of the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit.
We see it on movies and TV shows all the time, but as we watch, we can only wonder if this could really happen in real life.
Carolyn, don't give in! Don't let her take it!
And sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but yes, there have been multiple points in history when the demon takes full control of a human. Or so we think. So I did some research and found the top 10 scary real-life demonic possessions. I'm your host Andrew, and let's get right into this. At number 10 spot, we have the Exorcism of Gina. In the year 1990, New York native Reverend James LaBarre oversaw 3 different exorcisms, all of which were approved by both the Cardinal John O'Connor, which was the Archbishop of New York at the time, and even the Vatican. One of these cases, the exorcism of the Florida girl Gina, was broadcast on national television in 1991 on the ABC network. The ceremony, which featured music in the style of the Middle Ages, was described by Newsweek as, quote, nothing more than the needless agony of a severely unhappy young girl. She was restrained to a chair, screaming and barking incoherently as the Reverend thrust a cross into her face and even threatened Gina's purported demons with torture if they desired it. And on top of that, others alleged that she was speaking in different languages that she had never known before, and her voice kept altering in ways her family have never heard before.
And blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and in the hour of our death.
That's part of the objection of the demons leaving.
Somebody help me! I said I don't want to go!
For those who were tuned in, it was very painful to watch. At a number 9 spot, we have Terence Cottrell. Slight trigger warning for this part. Terence Cottrell, an 8-year-old kid with autism, passed away in 2003 during a prayer service that was designed to drive away the demonic spirits allegedly responsible for his illness. Yeah. In August 2003, a small group of Christians gathered at the Faith Temple Church in Milwaukee in order to rid the child of apparent demons. They would wrap the kid in cloth, all while pressing down on him. They would scream at the devil to leave his body for hours. Around the 2-hour mark, they noticed the kid stop breathing, and according to CNN, Terence was suffocated and external chest compression was determined to be the cause of death. The boy said to have stopped breathing when Reverend Hemphill sat on his chest. The minister was found guilty of murder immediately. During the ensuing trial, it came to light that Reverend Hemphill had received no formal religious training and was ordained by his older brother. He was convicted of child abuse and sentenced to 2.5 years in prison and 7.5 years under state supervision. At number 8 spot, we have Elizabeth Knapp. Just 20 years before the infamous Salem witch trials, there was a demonic possession case reported that could be one of the earliest known cases we have today. Elizabeth Knapp was a 16-year-old girl who lived in Groton, Massachusetts. The story goes that Elizabeth was the servant at a household of Reverend Samuel Willard. He would be known for his clergies where he would frequently talk about the devil corrupting the youth. So when he started to notice Elizabeth showing those signs, he quickly took action. Elizabeth would show signs such as emotional fits, hysterical laughing, and at one point she began to have hallucinations. And this is when the Reverend decided he would call a medical doctor, but when no cure could be found, they just claimed that she was actually possessed by the devil. According to Knapp, the ordeal began when she was visited by the devil one night and made a pact with him. She would sell her soul in exchange for things like money and youth. So when the priest talked to the girl, he noted that it was as if he was talking to the devil directly through the young girl's body. In 1672, Willard's journal entries about Knapp ceased to exist, and to this day, nobody is sure what really happened to this possessed young girl. At number 7 spot, with Anna Eklund. The early exorcism, otherwise known as the Exorcism of Anna Eklund, is a famous case of demonic possession not only in the state of Iowa but throughout the entire world. The Exorcist movie took small bits of inspiration from what went down in this case. At a young age, she would suffer from demonic voices in her head to do unimaginable things. In the beginning, you could make an argument for schizophrenia, but as time went by, she found herself unable to enter a church, could detect food that has been blessed, and even would despise other holy objects. Her family sought out help from Father Reisinger, who was specialized in exorcism. To test if she was faking, the priest sprayed her with fake holy water and she didn't react. Then on June 18, 1912, the priest performed an exorcism on 30-year-old Anna, and after, she was back to normal. Except in the next few years, Anna claimed to be tormented by the spirit of her dead father and aunt. So Reisinger came back, except this time in secret. During the exorcism, Anna dislodged herself from the bed, floated in the air, and apparently howled extremely loud. When asked who possessed Anna, the demon responded, "It's Beelzebub, Judas Iscariot, Anna's father, and her aunt Mina." After the exorcism was complete, Anna lived out her life quietly until her passing in 1941. At number 6 spot, we have the Son of Sam. During 1976 to 1977, American serial killer David Berkowitz, otherwise known as the Son of Sam, would go on a spree killing 6 people and wounding an additional 7. He would leave behind letters at his crime scenes indicating that a mysterious figure known as Papa Sam was responsible. It was then revealed by his neighbor that Sam was in fact only his dog, but he claimed that his pet was possessed by a 6,000-year-old man who used to drink human blood. So fast forward to prison, he even warned the police that there was more killings that was going to happen, and because he was only one puppet to a very large satanic cult. And obviously they couldn't care less about what this guy had to say. I mean, he was in prison for murdering 6 people. Why would anyone listen to him? But back to the murder he predicted. On the early morning of Halloween in 1981, 39-year-old Ronald Sisman and 20-year-old Elizabeth Platzman were beaten and shot to death. David predicted all of this, including the exact apartment layout, and when the police questioned Ronald Sisman's friends, they said he had never met David or was part of any satanic cult. In the hump of our list, we have the Conjuring House. In January 1971, the Perron family moved into a 14-room farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, where Carolyn, Roger, and their 5 daughters began to notice strange things happening almost immediately after they moved in. Carolyn would notice that the broom went missing or seemed to have moved from place to place on its own. She would also hear the sound of something scraping against the kettle in the kitchen when no one was there. She would find small piles of dirt in the center of a newly cleaned kitchen floor, but that could just be the kids. Caroline allegedly researched the history of the home and discovered that it had been in the same family for 8 generations, and that many of them had passed away under mysterious or even horrible circumstances. Several of the children who used to live in the home had drowned in the nearby lake, one was murdered, and a few of them hanged themselves in the attic. Over the next 10 years that the family lived in the house, the Warrens made multiple trips to investigate, and at one point Lorraine conducted a seance to attempt to contact the spirits that were possessing the family. But during the seance, Carolyn Perron would become possessed, speaking in tongues, and rising from the ground in her chair. At number 4 spot, we have George Luckens. In 1778, former tailor George Lucken showcased pretty odd behavior. He would be speaking in a strange, manipulative voice, all while singing hymns backwards, and many people reported that the sounds you're hearing are sounds that humans just can't make. A member of the parish named Sarah Baber first came across George, and she always knew him prior, describing him as a good, church-going man with no previous issues whatsoever. When taken to the doctors, no one knew what was up with him. George would later claim that he was being possessed by 7 demons, and that 7 clergymen will be needed to drive them out. So in a ceremony held in Bristol's Temple Church, 7 priests commanded the demons who'd apparently taken over Lucken's soul to leave once and for all. The ceremony ended in a success, with the demon being driven out of George, causing all of his problems to go away, including his consistent seizures. Guess this one was a happy ending. What a surprise. At number 3 spot, we have Michael Taylor. This story goes when Michael's wife accused him of cheating, and she would back this up by claiming that his behavior was very unusual and not like him. And he never did that type of stuff before. He would do this all while shouting at her in tongues, and this is when a group of people had to restrain him. She described his appearance as bestial and how he was staring at her with this wild look in his eyes. His behavior got so bad they decided to seek out help in the form of priests. During an 8-hour exorcism session, the priest claimed to have pulled out a total of 40 demons. But they left 3 of them in him, which happened to be murder, madness, and violence. Then they sent him home for some reason. This was an obvious red flag, and Michael would be found hours later in the street naked and covered in blood. When the police arrived at the home, they discovered one of the most brutal sights they've ever seen. Michael had brutally attacked Christine, removing her eyes and tongue before ripping her face from her skull. He then strangled the family dog, and once the dog passed away, he removed its eyes as well before breaking the dog into different pieces, throwing it all around the house. At number 2 spot, we have Annelise Michelle. This is the same case that inspired the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Annelise was a normal girl growing up, but by the time she hit the age of 16, everything changed. She began to see the face of the devil everywhere she went, and shortly after, many people, including herself, believed that she was actually possessed by a real demon. A total of 67 exorcisms were done, and they sounded a little something like this.
Da ist uns noch etwas zu sagen. Weil der Teufel größere Macht.
Unfortunately, they did nothing good for this poor girl, and she ended up passing away from malnourishment and dehydration. Were these the true sounds of a demon, or a troubled girl just looking for proper help? You guys be the judge of that. At number 1 spot, we have Claire Germana Seal. In 1906, a 16-year-old Claire Seal was heard making a pact with Satan himself, meaning no good implications follow the story. Then shortly after, nuns at the orphanage school she was at claimed that Seal was growling, hissing, ripping her clothes off, and demanding to speak with priest Father Erasmus Horner. At the time, the nuns and priests reported that she had the strength of an adult and spoke different foreign languages in which she had never been exposed to. Then out of the blue, she began to levitate, causing Father Horner and Reverend Mansuti to report it, and they gained permission to conduct an exorcism. It lasted a total of 2 days. Her skin was constantly burning due to the holy water, and she was caught levitating by over 150 witnesses. Everyone noted smelling a distinct nauseous smell leaving her body, as they suspected when the devil finally left her. Well, these are the top 10 scary real-life demon possessions. What do you guys think about this list? Leave a comment down below with some of your thoughts and some suggestions for our next videos. But don't forget to like and subscribe for some more content. I'm your host Andrew, and I hope you guys have a scary day.